There's a saying that yesterday is a history and tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That is why it is called present. So today's gift is going to be talking about SQL injection. I just wanted to change a bit the introduction. I know that it's been a long time that I haven't uploaded any videos due to the fact that I was a little bit busy with the exams. And 2 days ago I had an exam in information security, and one of the chapters was basically about the SQL injection. I was a bit confused, and I didn't know how does it work, and so I was like, I made up my mind to come to grips this matter, and let's find a solution. And I know, like, together we can going like step by step and trying to understand the whole step. So yeah, before providing the explanation, I just want to make something clear. In this tutorial I use this website which is called DVWA, and in order to access this website you should access it via Docker container, and all you have to do just to follow all the steps that have been provided within the video. So this is a classic example of the communication between a client and the web server, and this is behind the scene database. Yeah, so let's imagine that I'm the client and I'll try to access through Facebook. Basically what my web browser does, it simply sends an HTTPS request, and then what the web server does, basically it sends a request. So here in this part comes where the SQL injection get involved. So the language that web server uses to talk with the database, basically it uses the SQL language. So as you can see here, these two rows, the web server sends an SQL request, and simply the database sends back the SQL response. To make it clear, like for example, once you open your what we call, sorry for that, the web browser, and trying to access to Facebook, and let's imagine that you manage to access Facebook, and then the web server, it sends you back the web page where you have to put or to provide your login details. Once you provide them, basically what does the web server first, before granting you the access, firstly it has to check with the database whether you are already registered to the Facebook or not. And once the database sends a response to the web server, if it's correct, then it will grant you the access. So yeah, this apostrophe, the one is the key thing that shows you whether the web server is vulnerable to the SQL injection or not. So the rationale behind that is that as I told you, that it shows you whether the web server is vulnerable to the SQL injection. Or so basically what attackers first step would be is trying to access any web server that are suspicious that is vulnerable to the SQL injection, and then in one of the boxes they for example they write number 1 or 2 or whatever, and following that number comes the apostrophe. And once they input they inject the command, if it shows them that there is an error, in that case they will realize that they would be able to communicate directly with the database using the SQL language. And here's some commands that they will injected within these boxes. For example, with this command you can list the database name, so you have one information. The second thing is that they will execute this command, which will allow them to list all the tables within this database. And even this last command, which is really efficient, that will provide the attackers all password hashes for all users. And yeah, I forgot to inform you that usually the databases they store the password for the web server in a format of hashes, and this is for security purposes. So yeah, and everything will be explained within the video as I mentioned earlier. And this technique is called manual injection. And there's another technique which makes things easier and less consuming time. It is called automated injection. So within this one, we'll be using Kali Linux. So we'll be using Kali Linux SQL map tool to discover the current user, databases and tables, and we can even,